This is a beginning of a good run for Georgia. I think they are going to improve offensively. I know that sounds crazy. That was Greg McElroy on Georgia the other day. Matt, they just lost their best player on offense for a few weeks. Now, how long, we don't really know. Uh, your comment on that statement, is Georgia going to maybe be more explosive in different ways than without Brock Bowers? I mean, what's your overall comment about that statement?
It's hard to be more explosive without your most explosive player, but I do think this is a challenge for not only Mike Bobo, but for Carson Beck, who has to deliver to a lot of different guys. He's got to distribute the ball as well as he has all year, and it's up to Mike Bobo to get him in those situations where he feels comfortable getting it out to, the best option. It's not 3rd and 8. Oh, I have to go to 19. I have to find Brock. Or in the fourth quarter, they need a big play. You have to go to 19. No, this is about, who's open, what the correct read is, and so much. It's about playing quarterback, like you say all the time. So Spencer Rattler was able to find 9 different guys, 9 different players caught passes against the Gators last week. So
You're
I
just
think
full of statistics these days.
yeah, my picks have been so bad. I got to do more research. Got to find the time to dig into the numbers. And, I think both of those offenses were really good, but Florida's given up some deep passes as well. They're giving up explosive plays in the passing game. So if you're Carson Beck, and I kind of wrote this about Arian Smith too, where's Waldo, right? Where's Arian Smith? They have to get him involved. He's too fast. He's too fast to only catch 4 passes this year. Maybe this is the year. I mean, he's a Florida native. Maybe this is the game where they can stretch the field with him, and maybe Carson hits some guys deep, because we saw Joe Milton hit some guys deep, Spencer Rattler, Devin Leary connected on a couple passes that both went 50-plus yards. So it's tough without Brock Bowers, but this week specifically, I think there are opportunities to make plays down the field. Got to hit them, got to execute, because, Dean, they've just been a little off on these deep passes this year.
Yeah, okay. So you spoke to exactly what I was going to say, which is just because Arian Smith is open doesn't mean that he's going to catch it. And he can prove all of us wrong by going out and catching wide open touchdowns like he didn't do against Vanderbilt. Well, I don't know if that was a wide open would that have been a touchdown?
I'd have to go back, but it just seems like he's trying to do too much, and it doesn't come natural. It doesn't come easy to him.
Against Vanderbilt, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Carson Beck had 9 completions to people other than Brock Bowers. So 10 different receivers. Against Kentucky, I don't even know. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 11 that were not Brock Bowers. I think moving the ball around is not going to be an issue for Carson Beck. I went down there 2-3 times whenever it was when Carson. We went to see Carson a lot. It feels like back in the day, and I do think the one thing I wonder about. I just wonder. I don't think this is a giant thing necessarily. When you're from Jacksonville, that matters to him. I mean, it always has. I talked to him when he was in high school about playing in this game. Said, this means you're going to play in Jacksonville in this game, and he knew that would be a big moment for him. Well, now that moment has arrived, Matt. And is he going to, I think at the beginning of the season, there were times when Carson, the first game, he was certainly nervous. Are you going to be nervous when you play the Gators in your backyard? I don't know. I mean, I think that matters too.
Yeah. Well, he's got some experience now. This is a 4-year play. This is a game I think he's circled for a while. He's dreamed of kind of playing in this game ever since he was a recruit, and both were recruiting him. I think Florida tried to flip him when Georgia was hosting C.J. Stroud towards the end of that year. So there were a lot of teams that liked him, and for good reason. We're seeing why. But he knows that this could be a monumental game for his legacy at Georgia. I mean, he knows he's going to be connected to this game, good or bad. I think he's ready, and 2 weeks to prepare. 2 weeks to prepare a game plan without Brock Bowers, too. I think that helps a lot.
How much does that help?
You have 6-7 extra days to figure out how can we replace that production, not the talent. You can't replace that explosiveness and that talent, but you can dial some things up that maybe Mike has saved a little bit, or there has to be some plays that we haven't seen that he said, okay, without Brock Bowers, we can get a little tricky, not too much. We still want to do what we do best, but maybe catch a defense off guard. But, they have egos, and he still wants to put up 40 points a game with or without the best player. It doesn't matter to him. But I do think Carson should be ready in this game, and I'm expecting him to score in the 30s still.
The Villa collection over at Eco Poly is something to certainly check out. These are sets now of items that you can get. 20-year warranty, Matt DeBerry. You can get any sort of color, multiple colors that they can build for you. These two are good examples of that. Make sure you're checking out our friends at Eco Poly. The link is right down below. 15% off, as well as free shipping. Christmas is right around the corner. Holidays are right around the corner. It's a great time to set your backyard or set your, situation for a while. If you got a mountain house, this is awesome. It is going to deal with the elements. No problem. When I think they're going to improve offensively. That's I know that sounds crazy. That's what he said. I get that. I'm not sure we're going to see an improvement in yield necessarily, but I don't know. Like, one game without Brock Bowers is not going to tell you everything like what it's going to be like for all of the games without Brock Bowers. We've seen Georgia play without their best players before. Matt, Nolan Smith, a year ago this week, was out for the rest of the season. Jalen Carter, George Pickens. I mean, we've seen guys who are high-level first-round draft picks or whatever George Pickens was, an alien, be gone for a season. And Georgia still won national championships those years. Now you're dealing without Brock Bowers. I mean, it could be worse. He could have been gone for the year. He's not. And, if you're getting paid, however, I don't know what Mike gets, but if you're getting paid Matt DeBerry money, you got to go out there and perform as a play caller. Kirby Smart's getting paid, I don't know, $10 million, whatever. Doesn't matter where they're getting paid necessarily. That's Georgia's problem. They're the head coach and offensive coordinator of one of the best offenses in the country. You've lost your best weapon, but you're not there for nothing. It's time for Mike Bobo to get it done, like he's been doing, quite frankly, for the last 7 games.
If George is an 18-wheeler, I think losing Brock Bowers for a few weeks is probably a couple flat tires, right? But this thing's still going. I mean, this program is built on toughness, physicality, discipline. They're winners. That's all they do. That's what they do. Without Brock Bowers, who did kind of save them against Auburn.
Totally.
So I get he has that type of talent and, impact on the game. But that couldn't happen more than one time. So, they're game planning now for not only Florida, but after that, they have to be without him for Missouri, who scores a lot of points, and Ole Miss, who can score a lot of points. They haven't recently, but they still have that offense and that coach to put up points. And then going up to Neyland, you're going to have to score points there. So they know the challenge ahead of them, and I think they're going to be ready.
Yeah, so a couple things about, my commentary is always that you need players to steal games for you along the way. Well, Brock Bowers did that at Auburn. Like, he shouldn't have to do that 3 times. Secondly, this program is not about any one player. So, that Brock is out is terrible for him, but it's not like he was, something tragically tragic happened to him. He played football. He plays a sport. He got hurt. He will be back. To your final point, you're talking about going up to Tennessee. I mean, and I'm not reporting this. I'm just saying it's not out of the universe that he is dressed out for that game. I mean, you talk about, that Vandy game, he had surgery on the 16th. 3 Mondays is before the Ole Miss game. 4 Mondays is before the Tennessee game. So we don't know, but I don't think it's at all out of the realm of possibility that, that's about the universe of timeline that you're talking about. But just assuming he does not play against the Vols, you still should go up there and win. I mean, again, it's not about any one player, man. This wasn't about JT Daniels. This wasn't about George Pickens or Jalen Carter or, whoever, or Trayvon Walker. He doesn't make enough plays. We're not going to draft him number 1 overall. No. He did make enough plays, and he's making plenty
Yeah.
of plays for the Jags. So it's about the collective effort. It is the, for lack of a better term, Matt DeBerry, it is the tush push of the Georgia Bulldogs. You got to deal with everybody. It's not just
Yeah.
Brock Bowers.
One of the biggest differences from the Kirby Smart era to the Mark Richt era, when Todd Gurley goes down, the season just unwinded, right? It's not that way anymore. And, Brock Bowers is still a pass catcher. He can win games, but you still need the quarterback to throw it to him effectively and accurately. So they should be fine. I just think there's too many people jumping off the bandwagon, so to speak, saying Georgia's going to lose 1 or 2 games because Brock Bowers is out. Maybe that's the Munson that's still in people, but I don't know. They should be fine. This is a tough stretch coming up, but that's why Kirby's getting paid what he is, and Mike is getting paid what he is, and Carson's good enough. We've seen him play well enough to where this shouldn't be that big of a deal.
But see, let me just explore this a little bit further. Why is the recruiting budget so high? So you can go sign multiple players like Oscar Delp and Lawson. So Oscar and Lawson are maybe not the greatest example because they're Metro Atlanta. But, why are you going to go to Rhode Island to get Xavier Truss? Why are you going to California to get Bowers and, everybody else on this team? You're going to go get them Kendall Milton. Kendall Milton's been banged up a lot of this year. What happens if this week's the Kendall Milton game and this guy just explodes on floor? You just need your guys. There's only 12 regular season games. You just need, on occasion, your guys to steal a game for you. Brock did that on occasion. Brock did that at Auburn. I don't know what Carson, who did he blow up? Kentucky, I guess? Was that Carson Beck's game? I mean, Carson Beck's going to have to do it maybe more than once. What happens if it's not Deshaun Edwards and it's Kendall Milton? That's what depth is about. When I wrote in 14 that they were or 13, I can't remember. When Todd got hurt, I wrote that it would be a very different season for Georgia. And people were very angry about that. But it was true, and it bore out to be true. I'm not sure that this season is noticeably different, Matt.
I just want to say it was the high ankle sprain against LSU that kept him out. A lot of people might jump on and say, well, he tore his knee up at Auburn at the end of the year. But if I remember, that was 2013 against LSU he got hurt, right? Then 14 was suspension, then the ACL.
Correct. We're talking about 2 different moments in time here. I mean, but when you lost Todd Gurley, so Brock Bowers, I was such a Todd Gurley at Georgia fan. Todd Gurley did so much on an every down basis that Brock, it was more noticeable. I remember being on the sideline at Neyland and Todd was out there. I don't think he had a boot on. He had sunglasses on. And they had JJ Green running wild on the Vols that day. So, what if Todd had played in that game? I mean, that Aaron Murray was put through a lot at Georgia, but
throwing to Rhett McGowan again.
It's unacceptable. Well, no disrespect to Rhett McGowan, but think about all those receivers that were out there to be had. And that 13 team just crumbled apart because they just didn't. They're against Missouri a week later after they had saved themselves against the Vols. A week later, I believe their starting group did have Rhett McGowan and did have either JJ or Brendan Douglas. Now, that
receiver, it was a mess.
It was a mess because and I think Chris Conley was the only legitimate non-hurt receiver in that time. So Georgia's not in that position, man. I mean, you don't want to lose your really good play. This would be it's not dissimilar from the Golden State Warriors losing Klay Thompson, excuse me. I mean, but they still kind of maneuvered around it. They didn't win the championship. But the good news here in this scenario is, Brock Bowers will be back. I think he will be. My suspicion is he'll be back before the SEC championship game. Certainly he will be back before the playoffs if Georgia goes there and if Georgia goes to the SEC championship game. But it could be before that. I mean, we don't know. I know I don't know. And so, but I also think too, Matt, I want to say this before I stop ranting, which is that a lot of the folks that comment on these things nationally, they don't understand the nuance of things. They say their best player is gone. They're not going to do it. Even in 14, when their best player Todd Gurley got hurt, people didn't know who Nick Chubb was. Not really. And then he showed up against Mizzou and Arkansas. They didn't lose to Florida that year because of Nick Chubb. They lost because of Jeremy Pruitt. And, Will Muschamp still threw it 6 times too many, and he only threw it 6 times in that game. So that wasn't about losing Todd. That was about horrific defensive execution of a probably not very good game plan. Whatever it was on Jeremy Pruitt. So this is not, we're light years from that. And I think that's a real problem for everybody involved. Go ahead.
I think you nailed it. Georgia should be fine at Jacksonville offensively.
That would be what I would think. We'll see.